Hello and welcome back to the Championship Crowd podcast. I'm Chris and we've got another exciting pod lined up for you today. We're going to be hearing from 11 different Championship fans later on. But first of all, let's come to my co-host Adam. How's your week been? How are you finding international break?
Yeah, international break's not really my thing. I don't really get much enjoyment or satisfaction out of watching England, particularly against teams like San Marino and Albania, where I think you kind of know England are going to win the game. You kind of look for a performance, and England probably haven't really performed that brilliantly. Obviously got the wins, but yeah, not really my thing. And I think Southgate's got a big job ahead of him going into the Euros. So I think England are probably expected to do well, and whether he can deliver that is a different story altogether. But looking forward to Friday. Obviously, Norwich back in action. A lot of the Norwich players are doing well on international. I think Pukki's got a few goals, and Ono Hernandez scored for Cuba last night. So hopefully they'll all come back fit and firing to finish the job.
Yeah, we had a few niggly ones. I think Ayew went off for Ghana after scoring a penalty. So fingers crossed on that one. I think he will be all right. Jamal Lowe scored, so that's positive. But unlike you, I'm a Wales fan, so I don't mind international break. I always like it. We're usually fighting for something. Unlucky against Belgium. Mexico, great result in the friendly there. I thought second team for us. That's a good win. Big one, though, Tuesday night. So tonight for the listeners, it's against Czech Republic. For that second place, we really need to get a result. But anyways, as you know, it's a Championship Crowd podcast. So we want to hear from the fans. And that's what we're doing today. As it's international break, we're going to hear from 11 different fans from 10 different teams who are all fighting for something towards the end of the season.
We're going to start off with those teams in the top four, although we don't have a Norwich fan because Mr. Chris Durkin, I think you finally accepted Norwich going up, haven't you?
Yeah, one partly, I guess we've got you, but mainly I am going to finally cave in with that one, Adam. Norwich, they are set for the top two, aren't they?
I think so, mate. I can't see us collapsing at this point. So our nearest rivals are Watford. So we're going to start with Watford. We've got Andrew from a Watford perspective. He's going to give us some insight on their season and how Muniz has changed their season. We've then also got Swansea fan Amy. Swansea obviously in third place at the moment with that game in hand on Watford. They'll still be hoping to try and get automatics. And then Brentford, we've got two fans from Brentford. We've got Beast TV and we've got Dan, and they're going to be telling us all about Brentford and Ivan Toney.
Hi, my name's Andrew. I'm a Watford season ticket holder. And yeah, so the season so far, it's been a weird one. So the start of the season under Vladimir Ivic, we were getting some results, doing all right with the table standpoint because we were in the playoffs and we were still challenging, but performances, they were just boring. There were little 1-0 wins. We're holding on against teams and the performances were just negative and boring. We wanted attacking football with arguably one of the best squads in the Championship. We should have been smashing teams, whereas we had results against Barnsley where we lost 1-0, even though they're doing well now. At the time, we should easily beat them. Same with Bristol City. We drew 0-0 away from home and the performances just weren't there. So we got rid of the manager, which the fans were happy with, to be honest. And we got someone who no one really knew about in Xisco Muniz, who it looks like he's really got the team together. Looks like a happy face, which I think what the team needed. But still with him, we started off in a 4-4-2 and it was just negative. We were playing Will Hughes, who again, arguably best player in the best midfield in the Championship. We're playing him left mid, completely out of position. And it just wasn't what we needed. And it was until the Coventry game where we dropped points, where I think the players got together and had a little talk between one another and changed the system to 4-3-3. And since then, we've been brilliant. The performances have been attacking. We've been beating teams which we needed to. It's been going well. We've got next 4 games, we've got relatively easy games. And then the last 4, though, we've got Brentford, Swansea and Norwich all together. But if we keep the performances as it is, we hopefully should get automatic places as it is. And I think we will, because I think we will win our next 4. And I think we'll get a result out of Swansea, Brentford and Norwich. I think we'll get 4 points out of 9. I think that will be enough for us. So hopefully we will get the automatic spot.
Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. My name's Amy and I'm a Swansea fan. I'd just like to start by saying thank you so much to the Championship Crowd podcast for having me as a part of this video. I absolutely love getting involved with podcasts and championship chats and everything, so thank you for having me. So we're at the international break. Swansea are sitting in third place. I mean, I didn't really expect it, to be honest. I think if you had asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have said 5th or 6th. I think if I look back on some of my old TikToks, I definitely predicted us finishing about 6th. So to be in 3rd, pushing for 2nd, is pretty good. And the first half of the season, we played really, really well. Our defence was fantastic. We were scoring enough goals, and everything was going pretty well. Then we played Man City in the FA Cup. And not that it was that affected it, but since then, things haven't really been the same. We look tired, we look lethargic, or we can't really score a goal, and we've been letting in a lot of goals, which is very unlike the Swansea we saw at the beginning of the season. So I see a lot of people on Twitter saying, how are Swansea in 3rd? Like, they don't look that good. I promise you, the first half of the season, we were fantastic and we definitely overachieved what people expected. So I'm excited for the rest of the season. I'm nervous. I don't know what's going to happen. I would say, if I'm being honest, I think Watford are more likely to finish in the 2nd position. But this is football. This is the Championship. Anything can happen, and they do have a harder run-in of games leading up to the final game of the season, which is Swansea-Watford. And I mean, if it comes down to that game, I don't think I'll be able to watch it. But anyways, I've thoroughly enjoyed the season. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, and I'm wishing everyone else the best of luck.
Hi, my name's Dan Long. I'm a freelance journalist at Sky Sports and Brentford FC, and I'm a Brentford fan as well. There have been plenty of positives to take from this season so far. Firstly, the way in which we've responded to losing the playoff final to Fulham last year. Missing out was such a massive kick in the teeth, not least to a rival, but it's a testament to the hard work of everyone at the club, both on and off the pitch, that we're in a similar position heading into the run-in this year. Secondly, I think everyone knows just how much of an impact Ivan Toney has had at the club since joining from Peterborough for an initial fee of just £5 million last summer. Replacing Ollie Watkins was always going to be quite the task, but he managed the pressure admirably and has already surpassed Watkins' goal tally from last season. He looks destined for greatness in the very near future, that's for sure. He's also just 3 goals away from breaking Glenn Murray's championship scoring record of 30 goals in a season. Thirdly, I just wanted to touch on the 21-game unbeaten run, which briefly took the club above champions-elect Norwich earlier this year and set tongues wagging among fans that this could be the year that Brentford got to the Premier League. It was always going to come to an end at some point, of course, but it did so very abruptly in February when they lost to Barnsley, QPR and then Coventry all in quick succession. Since then, they've slipped out of automatic promotion contention, of course, struggled to regain any sort of consistency and dropped some important points against Forest and Derby just before the international break. The saving grace is that key players like Pontus Jansson and Christian Norgard are fit and back in the fold for the final few games, with Rico Henry, who is such an influential figure at left-back, set to return from a hamstring injury in the coming weeks. Obviously, I'm holding on to hope that we'll reach the top 2, not only because I'm all too aware that it's 9 playoff campaigns and 9 playoff defeats for Brentford now. Of course, it could be 10th time lucky, but I'm optimistic that they'll kick on and it won't come to that.
Bees TV here, giving you a rundown of our season so far as we head into the end game of the season. And minimum we have to expect is the playoffs. I think we can still go for automatics. I think Watford and Barnsley have proven this season that if you put a good form together of 5-6 wins in a row, I know it's a lot to ask, but they've proven that you can climb the table so much amount if results go away. Watford climbing up in second, I think 7 points clear of us. With obviously us having a game in hand against Rotherham, and obviously Barnsley climbing to top 6 as one of the biggest surprises this season, and definitely a lot to build on for them. But I think for us, playoffs, and obviously in the playoffs with our record, it's anything can goes, and it's hard to predict what will happen. We could get knocked down in the first round, or we could go all the way for the first time. But it will be tough. I think minimum we have to expect this playoffs, but as an overall, it's been an okay season, a lot to build on, and obviously a lot of tough things to take. But I think playoffs is a good place to finish, and obviously what the playoffs have said, you never know what's going to happen.
So playoffs is a good place to finish for Brentford. Would you have thought that at the start of the season, Adam? Because they were probably tipped to go up again.
I think probably at the start of the season, yes, to an extent, because you've got Bournemouth, Watford and Norwich coming down from the Premier League, all with relatively good squads because they managed to retain their players. However, what I'd probably say is I'll be more disappointed as a Brentford fan finishing the playoffs. I think they actually went top of the league before that defeat to Barnsley, QPR and then Coventry. I think those 3 games, to then free fall into the playoffs, when you were top of the division, that's probably where I'd find it more disappointing to be in the playoffs than I would be at the start of the season. I think they definitely would have taken it because anyone would take top 6 at the start of the season. But yeah, I wouldn't be happy as a Brentford fan to be in the playoffs, I don't think.
Yeah, especially with their playoff record. We'll discuss that again and later on. But yeah, so they're 7 points off Watford. Do you think with a game in hand they can close that gap?
I mean, we kind of spoke about it last week, but I think, in all honesty, Watford's remaining fixtures are by far the worst of anyone in the top 4. So, I mean, that's going to play into it. I think if Watford obviously come to Norwich and maybe Norwich go and beat them, and then you kind of look at those last couple of fixtures, they go up against Brentford and Swansea. If Swansea and Brentford, as long as they keep matching Watford right till the end, then obviously it's anyone's game. My concern would be that Watford look absolutely full of confidence at the moment, and their momentum before this international break was probably the best in the division behind Norwich. So a lot depends on if they manage to retain that momentum after the international break. I think that's going to be crucial. Obviously, if Swansea obviously had a little bit of a rest because a few of their players have been on international, but probably less so than maybe Watford. So will they, progress forwards after the international break and try and keep that gap to 3 points going into the last 2 games? And then it's anyone's race really for the top 2.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting end to the season. As we mentioned, Watford are the harder games. And it is those 2 last games that is going to define the season. Brentford away on the second to last game, then Swansea on the last game of the season. Swansea sitting 6 points off Watford. Amy did discuss how a great start of the season it was for us. But recently it hasn't been that good. Our defence hasn't been the defence it was at the start of the season. Do you think we can get back to playing the football we were playing at the start of the season and push going into that last game of the season to have a chance?
It's weird because the turning point for Swansea seemed to be when you beat Norwich at home. You obviously were closing that gap to Norwich. I think if you'd have won the game in hand, you went above us, I think I'm right in saying. Instead, it's gone completely polar opposite ways ever since. I mean, Norwich have just been relentless. I think we haven't actually been defeated since. And obviously then Swansea have had sort of a few negative results here and there, a few draws. They'll be a little bit disappointed with. So you're probably looking at that and you think to yourself, if Swansea can get back to that team before sort of early February, there's no reason why they can't be in the top 2, because I think you've got some relatively favourable fixtures coming up against teams that are sort of lower bracket of the Championship / the middle bracket where they've got nothing to play for. However, obviously, as Blackburn showed the other week, in those middle teams are still trying to beat teams at the top because they want to prevent teams from winning and get promotion against them. So it's going to be interesting. I think what do you think, Chris? Do you think Swansea can get back to that?
Yeah, so it's just Reading before the Watford game that we play a team in the top 9. All the others are around that middle of the park. We do have Birmingham. There's going to be a massive game on Friday because they're fighting for survival. We'll discuss them again later. But you know me, I'm biased. I always think the positive. So I do think we've got a chance. I think this international break, it couldn't have come up at a better time. Lost the 2 games, obviously Bournemouth. I won't discuss the second game we lost. But I think we can. I think we just need to get back clicking to playing the way we are. I just think Andre Ayew, hopefully he's not injured from the Ghana game. And I just think he's going to do it. He's just got that class. He knows how to do it. He's done it before for us. Just turns up at the big stages. With 9 games left of the season for Swansea, I think we are still in a massive chance, especially with Watford, that last game. But we're going to have to win that really to have the chance. Obviously, Andrew, very confident that Watford will go up. But now we're going to turn our attention to discuss the playoffs. We've got from Barnsley, Louise, from Reading, Johnny, and we're going to hear as well from Bournemouth for Craig as well.
So, my name's Louise. I'm a Barnsley fan. Been a Barnsley fan for a long time. First went there when my dad took me way back, probably 1976 season. So I've been going for a while, seen some ups, seen some downs. But this season, well, what can I say? This season's been something else. Not quite up there when we got promotion to Premier League in 1996-97, but it's not bad. We're doing really, really well. I mean, who'd have thought, you know, sort of looking at what happened at the end of last season when we were on his knees, we looked like we were down, we looked like we were out, and then what a guy, Clark Adore, popped up, scored that goal at Brentford that kept us up. Well, kind of kept us up, but we'll not mention Wigan because don't want to really upset too many Wigan fans. But we stayed up, and look at us now, we're flying. Big Val's come in, he's sorted us out, he's got us organised, got us playing well. Looked unbeatable. And again, I'm not going to mention last match because just a bit painful really thinking about that. But international breaks come at a good time for us. I think a good rest will do lads good. I think they're going to come back strong Good Friday and we take on Reading, which again is a big game for us. So we're sitting in 5th at minute and we're hoping, you know, we can maintain that. I'd like to think we'd finish probably there or thereabouts and get into playoffs. And who knows what can happen from that. You know, things are certainly looking very promising. We've got some good signings that have come in for us. Big Daryl DK, the man himself, come on loan from over in the USA, and he's settled in really well. He's a unit. That guy is a unit, and he's scored some good goals for us. And we've had a good addition as well with Morris coming in up front. So yeah, looking good. All very, very positive. Happy place to be, being a Barnsley fan at the minute.
Hi you guys, I'm Johnny Hunt, a Reading fan, living over here in Ireland. It's been a funny old season, hasn't it? With COVID, no fans. And for Reading, it's been pretty good, let's be honest. At the start, when the new manager came in, no one really had heard of him. We were thinking mid-table, and then we went on a run, got our hopes up at the start with that unbeaten run. Then we had a lot of injuries that set us back, but with a small squad due to the financial fair play issues and paying for what happened over the last few years with a big squad and a lot of wages. But we're in it, we're fighting. We have got so many good players. Swift's coming back, which is an added bonus for us. Look at our attacking threats. El Jara, Elise, Jow, Puskas on the bench, and the one man I think that will make the big difference is Jackie Mate. He's just class. He's like a talisman. He just does what he does. He scores goals and is a top guy as well. And then at the back, Michael Morrison is due back hopefully from injury, and he brings the team together. He's the cement, if you like. He's a leader. He's been there. He's done it. And you know, on a day we play well, we play good football, and we can beat anyone. Barnsley away on Good Friday will be a tough game. They've been on that big run themselves, but I think, you know, we'll raise our game, and I think we can beat them. But who knows in the Championship? If we don't, we'll learn from it and we'll bounce back and we'll go again. But never thought in my eyes that this stage of the season would be having a chance of a playoff. So I'll take that, and I think most Reading fans will. And knowing us, we'll win the playoff final with an empty stands at Wembley, since we've lost all the other ones. Come on, you Rs.
Hello guys, I'm Craig, I'm a Bournemouth fan. I'm the owner of the YouTube channel of the Cherries in All Department, UTCIAD. I started supporting the club when I first moved down here in 2009 during some tough times. And yeah, managed to see the Great Escape. Season so far, personally, I think that we should be doing better. We have got a lot of quality in our squad, even though we have sold some really good players as well in Ake, Wilson, Ramsdale. Also Fraser went as well, under a bit of a cloud. So, but we've still got a good nucleus of a side. So we should be doing better than we are at the moment. Of course, Jason Tindall was dismissed halfway through the season, which, you know, he's quite unfortunate, being at the club for 22 years. So it was a real shame that it didn't work out for him. But results have started to pick up a little bit again. I would hope, you know, with the quality that we have, we can get into the playoffs. I think it's going to be difficult. The Barnsley game was disappointing because it was really a 6-pointer that we needed to win. and that we have been beaten twice by Sheffield Wednesday. So it's been a bit of an indifferent season. We should be doing a lot better than we are. Where we'll finish, I would like to think we'll finish 6th. The top 2 are completely out of reach now. This shouldn't be for our football club. In terms of size, we're one of the smallest teams in the Championship, but in terms of the quality we got on the pitch, probably one of the better teams. But I think we've got to settle now for the playoffs. Hopefully we can get in there. Past who's going to drop out of that. It could be any number of teams. So yeah, I'm predicting we'll finish 6th. I don't think we'll finish any higher than that. And then it's really a lottery. We've got the quality to actually get through the playoffs. I know that, the talent we've got on the pitch, we should be able to do it. But times this season, we haven't shown it.
It was an interesting point Craig just raised there about the 6-pointer against Barnsley, that 3-2 win away from home for Barnsley against Bournemouth. How crucial do you think that could be going into the end of the season, Adam?
It's massive because obviously, as Mike said on here the other week, Barnsley have probably the most favourable run-in of anyone in that sort of top 6. So against bottom half sides, so you'd expect them to win enough games there to get themselves into the top 6 this season. And as they've all kind of said, the playoffs is a lottery, so you wouldn't back against Barnsley winning the playoffs. So I think they actually have quite a good record in the playoffs.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about the teams that do well in the playoffs traditionally, so it's teams that are on these big runs. Obviously, they lost to Sheffield Wednesday, the result Louise didn't want to mention. But that was quite unlucky. They were the better team that day, and they have shown they have been playing really well. So I expect them to carry on and maybe go into those playoffs with a good run of games. But a big game then for them, they're going to have to beat Reading if they want to secure that playoffs. And that's this Friday. So what's your thoughts on that game?
I think that's massive. I think, whichever side wins that, I would probably say confirms themselves in the playoffs. In my opinion, I don't see anyone below Bournemouth, maybe Cardiff to an extent, but I think Bournemouth are probably the main competitor. So, you look at that game, I think a draw is probably the worst case scenario for both in some ways, because Bournemouth had that game in hand on Reading, they have a chance to obviously narrow the gap to be level with Reading. So I think a draw doesn't help either. I think both will have to go out to win this game. Obviously, Reading, had that amazing start, as Johnny alluded to there. I think they unbeaten in their first 7 or 8 games, but obviously had a little bit of a dip in form sort of ever since, in terms of, I think they picked up 40 points from their last 30 games. So you look at that start, that was that first sort of 22 points they picked up out of 24 that was enough to kind of get them as to where they are now. So if they can obviously kind of get that first 8 games of the season form in the last 8 games of the season, they'll be comfortable in the playoffs. But they've got some big games, obviously starting on Friday.
Yeah, and he touched on the smaller squad, and you think maybe that's why they had a good start to the season. And now as the demanding games happen, that's maybe why they've tailed off a little bit. But it'll be really interesting come the end of the season, because a win for Bournemouth in their game of hand actually puts them above them on goal difference. So you think Reading have to go to Barnsley and get a result. They need to win that game on Friday. So you have to pick 2 teams. Out of those 3 teams, Adam, who's going to be in the top 6?
I mean, Craig made a good argument there for Bournemouth, obviously, the players they have on the pitch. I think personally they've probably got maybe the 2nd, 3rd best team on paper in the division. If they turn up and, Woodgate can get them playing, I wouldn't bet against Bournemouth being in the top 6 personally. And I think whichever team wins the game on Friday is the team that's going to come in the other playoff position. But I'm slightly going to favour Barnsley only because of the fixtures they've got left. I think it's been an amazing season for Reading anyway. If they finish in the top 6, then that is, absolutely phenomenal. If they don't, even if they finish 7th, 8th, they probably wouldn't have expected that at the start of the season. And you can say they've got the building blocks. Obviously, they'll probably lose a few of their better younger players, but for big transfer fees, which they can reinvest in better areas where they're weaker. And I think next season they'll have, a really good season under the manager. So I fancy them probably more next season than this season.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with you with those 2. I think Johnny touched on it, that he was surprised himself to see Reading even sitting in 6th. So I think they are going to be the team that's going to drop out. I think Barnsley, they've just been too good recently. And Bournemouth, I think I said it last podcast, I do think their players they have, you can't not see them going into playoffs. So I think Craig will be a happy man with Bournemouth coming into sixth. But do you fancy them in the playoffs with those teams? If we're going for Swansea, Brentford, Barnsley, Bournemouth, one person of those can then get promoted through the playoffs. Who would you go for?
Also, we've got the whole debacle of who's going to finish second place for starters. Like, I'm favouring Watford in this situation. So I'm going with the playoffs being Swansea, Brentford, Barnsley and Bournemouth. Out of those four, I mean, I think based on playoff form, I would back probably Swansea are naturally very good through the playoffs. I think Barnsley are very good through the playoffs. Although Swansea lost to Brentford last year in the semi-finals. So, there's kind of that whole conundrum of who's going to do it. I'm actually going to favour, which probably one of the bottom two in the playoffs, only because I think they'll have the momentum and the form. I think Barnsley's form has just been outstanding. I think it's, 12 games unbeaten out of 13. And then obviously Bournemouth are having a little bit of a resurgence, and probably based on the talent pool they have, as in Jack Wilshere, Solanke, Danjuma. I think all those players individually are the best of any of the sides in the playoffs. So I'm gonna back Barnsley. I want Barnsley to get promoted.
Oh, so what you think Swansea must be coming in the top two if you don't think we're going up through the playoffs, Adam?
I'm afraid, mate. I just think you're gonna get pipped by Bournemouth, and then I'm gonna back Barnsley to beat Bournemouth in the playoffs again.
Yeah, it does seem to be those teams that are coming up in good form. Not the third place. I know we obviously 2010 to 11, as you all know, because you went up that year as well. We finished third then, and then got through the playoffs. But it's never that simple, and it tends to be the team in form, maybe sitting in fifth, that projects themselves into good form, coming to Wembley, and then they win there. So I think it's going to be hard, especially after that game against Bournemouth, 3-0 defeat recently. I'm not looking forward to playing them, so hopefully they maybe get into fifth position, or we drop down to fourth, so then we have a little bit easier game coming into the final, where Bournemouth, they just have quality players. It's going to be very difficult. But still, many games to go. We might come in the top two. Brentford might come into the top two. Still don't know who's going to finish in the playoffs, like we don't know who's going down. So we've spoken to a few more fans. Have a listen to the thoughts of these fans.
Hi guys, thank you for having me on again. Hopefully this is another good podcast for you. When you asked me to sum up Derby's season in 2 minutes, I think that's a near on impossible task, because as ever, it has been another entertaining season at Derby County this year, but maybe for all the wrong reasons. We started the season absolutely terribly under Philip Cocu, whether that was because of the players, because of him himself, because of injuries, availabilities, off the field shenanigans with an ownership, whatever it may be. We started dreadfully, and we found ourselves in a relegation scrap really from day one up until maybe the Christmas period, when all of a sudden we had some direction with the emergence of Wayne Rooney as our head coach. And ever since he came in, we had an immediate response. I think January and February, we were one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league in terms of form. We were beating teams at the top of the division, at the bottom of the division, in the middle of the division. Nobody wanted to play us at that time unless your name was Rotherham United. And basically, we thought we were safe. And I think that's why we find ourselves where we are now. I think we got complacent, and I think we tried to maybe outcoach ourselves, try new systems, try new styles of play, but we did it too soon. And we've had a dreadful March and not won in 7 games, and we dragged ourselves back into a relegation scrap. I'm still pretty confident that we will be able to stay up, even though the gap is only, I think, 8 points, with them having 4 games in hand, maybe even 5 points, something around those angles. I mainly look at Coventry and Birmingham as the teams I want to finish in front of for that third spot. I think Sheffield Wednesday, even though they won recently, are down. So I think it's one team out of ourselves, Rotherham, Birmingham, Coventry, and maybe even the likes of Huddersfield, potentially Forest and Preston, that might drag themselves into it. And I do not think that one team will be us. I'm still pretty confident we'll stay up. I think the international break has come at a very good time, where we can essentially refocus ourselves, get back to the basics like we were doing in January and February. And if we can do that, and we can get a massive win on Good Friday against Luton, lots of ifs here, I understand that, but the game against Luton is massive for us. If we can win that, I think it settles us. I think it gets us back some momentum, some confidence ahead of 2 or 3 very difficult fixtures against teams towards the top end of the table. But really, we have 8 cup finals left. I think if we win 4 of them, we are absolutely safe. If we win 3 of them, I'm 95% confident we are safe. And I think the 4 games I look at for those final 8 as ones we should really win are at home to Luton, away at Blackburn, away at Preston, and at home to Sheffield Wednesday on the final day, because I believe Wednesday will be down when they play us on that final day already. So those are 4 games. If we can win 3 of those, I think we are safe. And that's why I'm pretty confident, because if we can rekindle and recapture that form that we've seen earlier this year in January and February time, then I'm very confident we will be able to stay up. Our international players, as at the time of speaking to you, have actually had a good run. Jozwiak managed to get a goal for Poland. He's not really had that form for us, so hopefully that's given him some confidence to come back, because our problems lie at the feet of our attackers. Well, actually, no, they don't. Our problems lie at the top of the club. There is one constant with Derby County. It's not the manager, it's not the players, it's Mr. Mel Morris. And unfortunately, Mr. Mel Morris needs to decide what he wants to do with the club. We were held at ransom by a potential buyer who I think a lot of us thought were never going to buy for about 5 months, and now we're back to square one with selling the club. This is a monumental summer coming up for Derby County, probably the biggest in my lifetime, whether we are in League One or in the Championship. A lot of change is upon us, or is about to be upon us. I'm quietly excited for it, but I think we have to be in the Championship, and I think we will be in the Championship. We just need to recapture that form of January, February, and I believe that Wayne Rooney will get us back to the basics and get us back to that form. Thank you as ever, guys. If anybody listening, if you want to put this in at the end, at CamStora is my Twitter handle if you want to hear any Derby or Championship terrible takes. And also please go and check out the Once Around podcast. Have a good show, guys.
Hi, my name's Glenn. I'm a Coventry City fan, and I run the Coventry City Twitter account called the Sky Blue Hub. I've been a Coventry City fan for nearly 30 years now. My first game was in the 92-93 season when we were in the Premier League. So this season's been quite a big season for us, returning to the Championship. Sadly, we didn't know how to get off to the best start after the first game, where we were a goal down inside 15 seconds away at Bristol City. And that kind of set the tone for the season so far, where we've been architects of our own downfall by giving away, I think, 11 penalties so far this season, and several own goals and poor finishing has seen us, after a pretty poor start to the season, improve. We climbed away from the bottom 3, hit a good run of form, went about 10 games unbeaten, and then unfortunately we've kind of thought that come January, after we beat Millwall away, we were kind of cracked it and we were on a good run, and then we got beset with injuries again, which has been another underlying theme all season, where we've had key performers from last season like Matty Godden and Fankati Darbo, along with Michael Rose, who've been pretty much out for large spells of the season. Also Tyler Walker, one of our summer signings, has been struggling with injuries and COVID as well. So we've not really been able to get a settled side together like we had last season, where the team pretty much picked itself, and that showed with the unbeaten run of form that we had before COVID hit and curtailed the season. This season, basically the aim is to finish outside the bottom 3, whether that's we finish 21st or we finish 17th. I don't think any Coventry City fan really cares where we finish, as long as we avoid the bottom 3 and stay up. Because obviously next season we're back at the Rico, and being in the Championship would be a massive boost for the club. We've got a 10-year deal hopefully at the Rico, which gives the club some stability off the pitch, and hopefully would allow us to attract some new faces into the club, which we need just to boost the numbers in depth and probably move a bit of the deadwood out. So my prediction is I think we'll probably finish 19th, 20th, and stay up, which would be a massive boost for the club.
This season has been very challenging for all the teams that play in the Championship, but it's definitely been a hard season for my team, Rotherham United, who have always been sort of within the relegation zone of the Championship and struggled to stay up, and found ourselves playing back in League One and having to rebuild back up and into the Championship. But I definitely feel that this year we've made some progress, with players like Freddie Ladapo and Michael Smith being able to bag some goals, and with vital results against teams like Sheffield Wednesday and Derby County, which could prove pivotal towards the end of the season in trying to stay up with the points that we've been able to gather so far. So the news came out yesterday that we'd actually have 4 games in around 8 days, which is absolutely crazy. And it sort of just sums up this campaign as a whole. But I do feel that if we can go into that with the right attitude and the right character, which I'm sure we will be able to under Paul Warne with his management staff as well, I do really feel like if we could pick up the points during that run, that could be the difference between us staying in the Championship or being relegated to League One. And that's quite entertaining. I think for all Rotherham fans that haven't been able to go to New York Stadium, like we all do, we're a really tight-knit community and a tight-knit club. So being able to watch on from home with Paul Warne injecting the passion that the fans bring, that they haven't been able to bring this season, he's done a really good job at motivating the players to carry on and play for those people at home that have missed out watching them. And I really do feel like they'll be able to do us all proud and we'll be able to stay up in the Championship and then build on that next season and hopefully able to solidify our position and not keep suffering relegations to League One. So fingers crossed, and it will definitely be a very entertaining run-in.
Good afternoon, my name's Dan Fudge, or Just Fudge as many people know me. I'm the presenter at the Wednesday Week, one of the, I think it's now up to 14 Sheffield Wednesday podcasts, but ours is the oldest and the biggest and the best, but you'll never hear me reminding everybody about that. I've been a Sheffield Wednesday fan for as long as I can remember. I remember the days of going with my granddad and my uncle back to Hillsborough to go and watch us through the Premier League years, and then our slow demise into League One and back up again and the rest of it. Behind me is my favourite shirt. That's the 1991, as it was known then, Rumbelows Cup or League Cup final shirt in which we beat Manchester United 1-0. In terms of this season, it's been a hell of a season for Sheffield Wednesday, having started with I think it was a 12-point deduction, which got reduced to 6. We were still being managed by Gary Monk, who looks like Pete the Pirate from Dodgeball, and then he got fired, and then we got the dinosaur Tony Pulis in, who's not won any real football in a number of years. Why that happened in the first place, I'll never know. Oh, that's right. It's because he's never been relegated. That's always fun. And then we got, from our local neighbours Doncaster, we stole Darren Moore. An appointment which seems to me to be a bit of an appointment preparing ourselves for League One football, given our precarious nature of where we sit. I think it'll be a large feat if Sheffield Wednesday stay up. I'll be very surprised if they do. It all falls down on, I think, forget about Rotherham, they've got a few games in hand, but I think it all falls down on your teams like Coventry and Birmingham and see how they go. I think currently I'm a little bit disgruntled the fact that the 6-point deficit that it's been reduced to has it doesn't seem to make a difference on whether we're going down or not as it stands right now. So we're very optimistic, but we'll see how it goes. In the next. There's not many games left now, is there?
There you go. So we've now heard from all those bottom teams there, including the best podcast in Sheffield Wednesday fan base, according to Dan Fudge. So let's start with that. He mentioned that it's going to be Coventry and Birmingham, that they need to slip up to have a chance of survival. Do you think those teams can slip up?
I think Birmingham definitely. I mean, their home form has been woeful. I think they played 19 at home, only picked up 15 points, and it's like in any division, the home form to me is the bread and butter to whether you stay up in a division if you're a side at the bottom. Because, you know, obviously usually you'd have the crowd behind you and it's the home advantage, where we don't really have that this season with COVID. But Birmingham's form obviously has, you know, they brought in Lee Bowyer, haven't they? And he got a win against Reading, you know, at home, which was a massive boost. And, you know, that they needed that win. If not, they'd be in the bottom three as we speak. But, yeah, I just don't see it. I think their next games are Swansea and Brentford. Can you see them winning either of them? I can't see it.
Well, I guess they've got the bonus that it is straight after the international break. We've got Connor Roberts playing on Tuesday. Are you maybe injured? We need to look more into that after playing on the weekend. So it could be interesting in terms of that. But obviously, I'm going to say we're going to win. But it is away from home, and it's a Friday night, 8 o'clock. You never know. Hoping they do a favour against Brentford, but I'm with you on that one. I think Birmingham could be the team that gets drawn back into it. Interesting though from Coventry, Glenn, was mentioning how they did have got that massive unbeaten form, the run that they thought they were then going to stay up, but then recently they got back drawn into the relegation battle. But I think them and Derby, Cameron touched on it. He thinks Sheffield Wednesday will be definitely going down. So then it's probably Rotherham with those 4 games in hand who could do it. We heard from Grace there. Do you think she's right in saying that they can stay up?
I wouldn't back against Rotherham staying up. I think they've got, Coventry left to play, Birmingham left to play. Providing they beat all of those teams at the bottom, which they have been doing this season, as she touched on, they beat Sheffield Wednesday, they've beat Derby County. As long as you beat the sides in and around you, you'll stay up. And they obviously have the 4 games in hand. The only issue is they are crammed into 8 days. And with a small squad that Rotherham have, a couple of injuries, and that could be detrimental because they might end up playing players out of position or younger players who, haven't got the experience, which, then you kind of look at that and you think, okay, that could be a problem, especially when they've had COVID issues all season. I think that would be my concern, but I wouldn't back against them. I think Sheffield Wednesday, as kind of Dan talked about, I just think that point gap, the deduction they had at the start of the season, I just don't think that's, despite their sort of upturn in form, I just don't think that's going to be something they're going to be able to close that gap enough to be able to stay up. So I'm definitely going to say Sheffield Wednesday will be in League One next year. And I still think they'll be joined by Birmingham. I think Rotherham will stay up. I think Coventry will be fine because they have that game in hand. And I think Derby, Rooney's done a relatively good job, and I'd expect him to get a couple of wins to just, secure their survival this season.
Yeah, it's interesting with Derby. Obviously, Rooney was doing a great job, but recently he hasn't been. They've been on an awful run, but you just think he should know how to do it. I know he's not actually been in a relegation scrap before in his career, but I think Derby have just safe from the 40 points. It's going to be probably Birmingham on 38 points that are going to be in danger. But with Rotherham, you just don't know. Because those 4 games, you think they've got 4 games in hand, that could be amazing. But then they're going to have to think tactically about the games, I think. They're going to probably maybe not rest their players against the teams that they think they could lose. But I think that's probably a good strategy to go with, because you think they just got such a small squad that to play all those games in a row, it's going to be hard and going to be very demanding. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it. Maybe they rest their players for those big games, make sure they win those big games and sacrifice other games. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but I think that's how I'll do it if I was a manager. But it is going to be interesting. So 3 points behind Birmingham with 4 games in hand with Rotherham. I think Sheffield Wednesday, I think Darren Moore obviously got a great result against Barnsley, which does still put them in and out about the chance of survival. But I do think it is going to be a big ask with those 6 points deduction at the start of the season. Very lucky it's not 12 for them, but I think they are going to struggle with that.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we've already accepted that Wickham, unfortunately, will be in League One next year. I think, obviously, for Rotherham, they probably have the, second smallest budget. If they could stay up, that, Paul Warne, as I think Mike said a few weeks back, probably could be manager of the year, because especially with all the obstacles of COVID and injuries and stuff they've had, that would be, just sensational if they managed to stay up and, be massive for sort of the small town of Rotherham, especially if they can get fans back next year, back in the Championship. And as kind of, Glenn said, for Coventry as well, to be at the Rico next year in the Championship, massive.
Yeah, I think that is going to be massive for Coventry. They've got this 10-year deal. They need to make sure they stay up. But thank you very much, guys, for all the people that have sent in the videos. Make sure, if you're fans from those clubs, head over to our Twitter. We'll be showing you their handles. Give them a follow. Watch all their content. We do thank you for giving us that as well. If you want to see the visual thing, make sure to go over to WD Sports YouTube account to watch it. If not, have a listen to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the jazz. And follow us on Twitter, so @ChampCrowdPodcast. Adam, any messages to send off?
Obviously, good luck to everyone in their Friday and Monday fixtures. Obviously, we got the Easter break. I hope everyone has a lovely Easter this weekend with your families, or, if you can get out in the garden. Hopefully we get nice weather. And obviously the rules have changed, today for us, yesterday for everyone listening. So you can get out with, 6 people now. So make the most of it, enjoy the weather. Hopefully your team wins at the weekend, and whatever your respective battle is this season, obviously we hope for your sake you stay up or go up, depending on which team you support.
Exactly. There you go. Swansea fans, gets the beers out. We're winning against Birmingham on Friday. Good luck to all the teams involved. Thanks for listening. See you next week.